Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad brushed off a report that 2 billion ringgit had been wiped off Bursa following the resignation of Khazanah National's entire board. More than half of Khazanah-linked stocks took a beating on the news, but Mahathir says this was just paper loss and nothing compared with the 1 trillion ringgit debt inherited from the previous government. He also stresses that Putrajaya is not on a witch hunt, but it cannot accept obvious wrongdoings. He adds that this action of clearing the deck at Khazanah will allow for a restructuring in line with the administration's policies. Mahathir says while he believes in paying good salaries, remuneration cannot always be based on commercial rates, and that a better way of rewarding staff would be to pay out performance-linked bonuses. Meanwhile, responding to Datuk Sri Najib Razak's criticism of the government's regressive policies, he says it is actually better for Malaysia to return to a bygone era, when Malaysia was known as an Asian tiger. Mahathir asks, is he saying that the people should be taken back to the era when the nation was known as a kleptocracy led by a kleptocrat? Agribusiness conglomerate Felda has a new chairman, Tan Sri Megat Zaharuddin Megat Muhammad Noor, who chaired Maybank from 2009 to 2017. According to sources familiar with the matter, he was named chairman in a letter from the government, which was passed to Felda's board earlier this week. He is said to be holding the post for the next 2 years. Megat replaces former Johor Bahru MP Tan Sri Shahrir Samad, who resigned in the aftermath of GE14. Shahrir was questioned by the MACC earlier this month over the 1 million ringgit he allegedly received from former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak. The company insiders also say the government is in the midst of restructuring the composition of Felda's board and will name 2 to 3 new directors within the next 1 to 2 weeks. AirAsia Group CEO Tan Sri Tony Fernandez says Malaysia is expected to have more low-cost carrier terminals. This is because Malaysia Airports now understands what AirAsia can do for the country's aviation sector. Fernandez said via Twitter that he had a great meeting today with Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng, Transport Minister Anthony Loke and MAHB Acting Group CEO Raja Azmi Raja Nazuddin. He hails it as an exciting time for guests and Malaysians, with more jobs and economic growth. Referencing the long-standing feud between AirAsia and the airport's operator, he says, "Let's hope the war is finally over and we both win together." Water, Land and Natural Resources Minister Dr. Xavier Jayakumar says there is no truth to talk that the government will pay 1.9 billion ringgit for water concessionaire Splash. According to Singapore's The Straits Times, Putrajaya reached a joint funding deal with the Selangor State Government last week to finance the acquisition. It says the buyout will cost up to 2.7 billion ringgit, of which up to 800 million ringgit will be borne by the Selangor administration. However, Xavier says negotiations are still ongoing and denies providing the Straits Times the figures mentioned in its report. The Selangor government has spent 1.68 billion ringgit to take over the water concession businesses of Puncak Niaga, Syabas and Consortium Abbas. This makes Splash the final holdout in resolving Selangor's water woes. Vijaya Media, under threat of delisting from Bursa, has been given a respite by the regulatory authorities. The publisher of the Sun Daily newspaper has been granted an extension of time to December 20th, 2018 to submit a regularization plan. It needs to get this plan approved and implemented within the timeframe stipulated by the authorities or get kicked off the exchange. Vijaya Media slipped into Practice Note 17 status last year after its shareholders' equity fell short of listing requirements. For FY18, the company reported a narrower net loss of 12.5 million ringgit, although revenue shrank 22% to 33.3 million ringgit. The group says it is operating in a difficult business environment and expects its business for FY19 to stay challenging.